This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. We're just going to start things right off the bat. We're just going to talk about big, giant strings of largemouth bass. I got a guest on today that's caught big, giant strings of largemouth bass for like $2.5 million over the course of his career. Narrowly missed out on adding like another $4,000 to that total at the Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn. But Randall Tharp doesn't know what we're going to get into. But like he's weighed in, he's done like that 5 for 30, 5 for 35 thing before, just like the crazy bags. I was part of one of those. I got to witness that in Oklahoma yesterday. But we're going to analyze it with the one and only Randall Tharp. Randall, thanks for jumping on BTL. I don't think I've had you on the show since I took over for Jeffries like 3 years ago. I saw you during one of the 2 canceled days at Sam Rayburn. We were in the burger shop there, and you and Big Daddy Russ Lade were behind, and we were all kind of lamenting our misfortunes of not being able to fish more on Rayburn. But I was like, dude, I got to get Randall Tharp on the show. So thanks for jumping on.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever done this show before, but and speaking of the burger shop, I think I'm still paying the price for eating that greasy hamburger. Dude, that place has got a good hamburger, but I do try to eat. At my age, you have to eat healthy, or you pay the price, and I think I'm still paying it for that hamburger that night.
Yeah, I was smart there, so I went with the steak fingers, which were delicious. I feel like when you're at a place that's a hit or miss, if you go with like some sort of finger meat that's fried, that's typically safe. So yeah, the steak fingers were amazing there.
Yeah, they look good. So.
What is your by the way, we're going to get into all sorts of stuff today. We have old school Florida beatdowns on the Elite Series, the MLF Invitational. It was like jerkbait scoping versus swim jig, flipping jig, and punching on the Elite Series. And then it was flipping versus live scoping lily pads with a spinning rod for Drew Gill on the MLF Invitationals. We have rules violations and penalties in the Bassmaster Opens, but we're going to start with some big bass. This got me fired up, Randall. What is the biggest 5 fish limit that you've ever crossed the stage with? And this can go like club tournament all the way up through Elite Series BPT.
Dude, that's a hard one. We were catching mid to upper 30s at Okeechobee when I was wintering down there, and that would probably be that 2008, 9, 10 time frame. The biggest stringer I've ever caught in a big tournament, like I've caught lots of mid 30s in like, the FLW tours or Bassmaster Open, stuff like that down there. Most of them though in the state of Florida for me.
When you have one of those days, like, do you know, like, think back on some of those mid 30s, like when you launched that morning, do you know, like, these guys are super screwed, or is it something that kind of materializes over the course of the day?
No, I expect to get big bites down there. I fish for 5 big bites, and if you execute on every opportunity, you can't come in with a bag like that. Man, I've caught some giant stringers down there and got beat before. I mean, that Jimmy McMillan and Jared and that crew, I used to compete against, JT and Kyle Walters. I used to fish against all of those guys, would come in with a sack of fish every single time I fished against them. And some of my best fishing memories were down there during that period of my career because, it was early on. I would literally fish down there from about Thanksgiving all the way through the start of the tournament season because there was 2 or 3 big events in Florida then. So we could fish for, $10,000 every week down there. I don't know that kind of money's there now. I think it's more divided up, but dude, I loved it. And the lakes down there were healthy then, full of hydrilla and pretty grass and clean water. And they fished big. They fish totally different now with what's going on. But gosh, man, I love those times in my life. I love that part of my career. And to me, that was like Okeechobee in its heyday was what bass fishing was to me.
And would you take a RV down there for a couple months and park it?
Dude, I had all kinds of accommodations, but I actually had an RV and they put a hookup at a tackle store, and I lived at a tackle store in my RV behind that for a couple
Oh,
of
that's
years.
living the dream right there.
Yeah, but I can remember distinctly like when Jordan Lee and Matt Lee were at Auburn, and they got to be friends with Justin Lucas and Kevin Hawk. Like, I knew Jordan and Matt because I lived in Alabama, just south of those two. I knew them when they were growing up, but I never really got to know them until they would come down there and fish for like a week, and they stayed with Lucas and Hawk, and we would get together. I'd have them over to my place and cook, and I'd go over there and they would cook. And dude, you talk about some fun times. We play cornhole and drink beer, and I mean, dude, those were some crazy guys, that went to school with Jordan and Matt and that whole bunch.
Did you ever go into Kevin Hawk's house at Gunnersville?
I never went into his house there, but
Dude.
I know how particular Kevin Hawk was
Dude,
about
it
his
was
stuff.
the wildest thing I'd ever seen. So he was next door to Justin Lucas, and I don't think he really fishes anymore. Like, I mean, he won the Forest Wood Cup, saw the Elite Series, super nice guy, very well respected. But then he just was like, "Yeah, I've had enough." I think he bounced back to the West Coast. But so you go into Kevin Hawk's house, and you're thinking like fisherman, right? It's like this dude hired someone straight from like HGTV to come in and decorate his house. It's all like it was like simplistic elegance is the only way to say it. So like everything in his house was like a right angle. And then there was like nothing on the wall, nothing. Like it was all like backlit with like really modern furniture. I mean, the thing looked like you could perform open heart surgery in it. It's so clean. And then he had one room. This is no joke. This is no joke. So he had one room. I'm assuming it's like a spare bedroom or something. There is nothing in this room. Nothing. But in the corner is a stand backlit with the Forest Wood Cup on it.
Yeah,
it's just a room with the trophy in it. It was cool. I like Kevin Hawk. I hadn't heard that name in a while.
dude, those are some of my fondest memories. And when I retire from this thing, dude, it's those memories and the people that I'm gonna miss the most. The good guys like Kevin that I got to meet and compete against. And gosh, man, that guy, you talk about a character. He was the most detail oriented outside of Aaron Martin's was detail oriented in a different way. Kevin was very similar being from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And what
when
a great
he won
guy.
that cup, didn't he practice for like a month? But didn't he win it
No,
on
was like a
Lanier?
year.
Didn't he?
practiced all year.
Didn't he move there for a year?
Yes. And I mean, dude, I love to see hard work rewarded. And I fished that tournament. Like, I mean, it couldn't have happened to a more hardworking, better guy. Super talented fisherman. And it's unfortunate that he doesn't still compete. But I don't know. I'd be curious to know what he's gotten himself into and what he's doing today.
Yeah, no, that was all the way back in 2010, a $600,000 victory. If my memory serves me right, he was drop shotting a robo worm on the brush piles on Lanier that he had spent literally a year finding and detailing his game plan, and then went out and executed it to perfection.
Right. And that was kind of the beginning of the whole morning dawn pink worm thing. That was like one of the first times I remember seeing the pink worm, thinking, why would they eat that? And now it's a staple in everybody's tackle box.
Now everyone's using it. They're starting to get scared of it. Randall, have you noticed that? Like, it used to be like I had the dink and dunks. Everyone made fun of me because I was a spitted rod guy. But then once you got with the scope now, I've seen him literally look at it and go, no, that's a pink worm. We don't eat those. We've already eaten those multiple times in our lives.
That dude, they will still bite it. I caught one time at the second day at Hartwell with the pink worm. So out
There
of a
you go.
brush pile, they will still eat it.
We digressed. So I started asking you about big bass. So I fished a little 30 boat jackpot yesterday in Oklahoma. My buddy Austin called, and it kind of worked out. A buddy called and said, "Hey, let's go try to catch some giants at some of the little lakes around here." And then my other buddy Austin called and said, "Hey, there's a jackpot here. It could go down." And this lake has kind of gone down in before. So first hour of the day, we roll up and we start close to each other. His first cast, he catches an 8.11. My second cast, I catch a 5 1/4. Then we kind of separate. Within the first hour, me and my buddy Juice, we have a 10.37, an 8.55, and a 5 1/4. I run by, I see Austin, I stop. I said, "What do you got?" And he goes, "I'm right at 40." And I was like, okay, because I mean, I knew it would take a little wait. And he's like, I've got a couple 6.5s that I need to get rid of. and so, long story short, we never caught another fish the rest of the day. I see Austin one more. He's got 42. I see Austin before weigh-in. He said his scale says he's right at 44. He had his dad film for him because he planned on hammering him. We get to the weigh-in. He has 43.5 with a 10.40. Second place is 35 with a 10. And then me and Juice got third with 3 fish for 24.5 with a 10.37.
Wow, dude. That's an incredible fishing. And that couldn't be that way all the time. You guys just hit it at the right time.
Yeah, so that lake will do that every 2 or 3 years when there's like, you have to have like the right factors, right, Randall? Do you go, so like, are you Randall or Randy? So like your email is like Randy, but then all your stuff is Randall, but then some of your friends call you like, where are we going with this? Is it Randall or Randy?
You can call me. I'll answer to anything.
Okay. But
I've
it's
been
like,
called way worse.
I would imagine it's kind of like a Florida deal where you have to have like 5 or 6 ingredients that come together to make like the perfect day on the water.
Yes.
It was nuts. But how'd you like to come in with 35 and a 10 and get like $700 for your efforts, get beat by 8 pounds and not even get big bass?
Dude, that's a great day of fishing regardless. So you probably won't forget that anytime soon, catching a fish like that.
No, it was wild. And then the other cool thing is how dialed in Austin was. He fishes the opens. Austin Cranford caught an 11.11 during practice at Rayburn. But it was one of those things, like I knew what he was doing. I knew he was like, not good enough. I wasn't good enough to do what he was doing and how he was doing it. And it's interesting when you like see someone, you're like, that guy's just better than me at that. Like he's catching fish that I can't catch. It's kind of frustrating. Have you ever been there? Like, has that ever driven you to be like better? Like when you started in Florida, because you've done the same thing. Like there's stuff that you're good at that you just are better at than 99.99% of people on earth.
Yeah, I mean, I have my faith that, there's no right or wrong way to catch a bass. Like, I have my things I like to do. I always try to fish to my strengths whenever possible. Even, sometimes I don't feel like I can win doing that, but I'm going to do it anyways because I know I can have a solid event. But, that's a cool thing about what we do. Like, and I used to love going to tournaments, and you'd look at the top 10 and pretty much all 10 guys were doing different things than what they were best at. That was a great event on a great lake at a great time of year. What I don't like to see is when you look at a top 10 and all 10's doing the exact same thing.
You think that's kind of why the A-rig was banned in bass at the beginning, was because they realized everyone would be doing the same thing? Or
man, I do. At that time, I fished the tournament that Paul won at Gunnersville.
Yeah,
I think it was like a FLW Tour Open.
It was an Open in October of 2011, an FLW Tour Open.
Yeah, and I remember finishing, I think 18th, flipping and frogging, and I think 17 guys ahead of me were throwing it. And I realized real quick that if I wasn't going to throw that, I was never going to compete flipping and frogging again there on a lake that I'd had a lot of history, a lot of success, and, kind of where I cut my teeth fishing. So, And then after that tournament, for 2 seasons on the FLW tour, we could throw it. And for 2 years, there was 200 guys or 150 guys, whatever the field was, and every single guy was throwing it, and it did dominate. Did the fish get accustomed to it? Yes. Did it get harder to catch them? Yes. And then it ended more or less when I was the name Casey Martin.
Yep.
Won at Chickamauga, throwing whatever he had 24 baits on there, which is
I
exactly.
totally forgot, dude. You're a historian. You've already brought up we've already talked about 3 epic things that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, and as a fisherman, when I saw what Paul threw at that tournament, I knew instantly where that was headed, and that's where it was headed. And it would have continually gotten worse had it not, the league stepped in and restricted it somewhat. It's still it catches the crap out of them still. It's still legal to throw it in a lot of places, and I don't have anything against the Alabama rig. What I am for is constantly pushing the limits to innovate. That was an innovative rig. Just like, there's a huge debate going on with the live scope now. Dude, I'm not against the live scope. There's this huge animosity between guys like me that's veterans and the young guys. And dude, I would just wish we're all fishermen. We all just want to, be the best we can be. And I'm definitely do not hate the scope. I definitely, I think the technology is awesome. It's allowed me to learn an incredible amount about bass behavior that, I had all these theories. I spent a whole lifetime developing them. And in a couple of days with that thing, I proved most of them wrong. So I'm enjoying it. I've really spent time this year utilizing it a lot, using it a lot every time I go to the lake. And but I am no Drew Gill or, the last couple of days I watched that Shane LaHue and Jay Shakurit's son, Jay.
Yeah, Jason Shakurit's son.
Yes, dude, those two guys, I don't.
Dude,
they're right.
Jason,
they're right there with
that,
Drew Gill. They're
you made
good.
Jason so happy that he's not referred to as Jay's dad, because he's a legend in his own right. He's the KVD of the walleye tournaments, right? So he's been at some media events, and he's like, it's really weird going from Jason Shakurit to Jay's dad. So I love that you referred to him as Jason's kid.
Well, I was friends with his father long before he was born. So he was an amazing fish. He still is an amazing fisherman, and the apple didn't fall.
Wait, how did you get to know him in the walleye world?
Dude, I was working for a boat and engine company at the time. We had a lot of common sponsors. And so when I would go up north, back then we traveled a lot doing seminars and doing shows in the wintertime, a lot more then than we do now because of social media and everything. Back then you could make as much money as you wanted to traveling around doing seminars. And every time I would go up north, it was the peak of his father's career there. And it was kind of the peak of mine. We were both, winning tournaments and catching a lot of fish. So I worked a lot of shows with him. And dude, I learned a lot from him because I felt like back then the walleye anglers pushed the limits of their electronics way more than bass fishermen did. And it may be the opposite now, but I know that his stuff was dialed in, and I could not get enough of asking him questions about it.
That's interesting. All right, yeah. So look, I found the Casey Martin deal when they actually banned it. So, or did it. So, farewell to the Alabama rig in 2013. Here it says, when you start pushing towards 20 swim baits and when your presentation resembles that of a chandelier than a bass fishing lure, the fair chase discussion rears its angly head. Furthermore, the bigger rigs were starting to cause major health problems with the angler's shoulders, backs, and elbows wearing down. The primary reason the rig was banned was that the majority of the pros simply didn't want it. They surveyed the tour pros in the spring, and 2/3 of the 150 wanted it barred. At that discussion, it ceased to discuss. That's interesting. Yeah,
it's very interesting
with the bait ball right there.
Yeah, it's very interesting because apparently back then they were still listening to the anglers a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll dive right into that. So we'll get into the Florida tournaments because there's no one to break that down. I know before we went live, you were talking about how much fun you had watching the Live Elite series. with Bill Lowen get the job done by just 4 ounces over Shakurat and 5 ounces over LaHue. Good old-fashioned Florida, not a slugfest there. It was actually kind of a grinder on the back end of a cold front. But on Saturday, there was something else that came out on the Bassmaster website. And to get to it, you had to go to Bassmaster, and then you have to click on the opens page, and then you have to scroll down. Well, here it is right here. Opens, Jaden Parrish find. And I don't know Jaden. The only thing that I've ever said to him was I saw him at the gas station before I guess he was a late boat draw, so it was like 8:30 on the one tournament day. We're both at the gas station. I said, "Oh, they canceled today. You don't have to bother showing up today." And he just kind of chuckled at it because he's been very dominant for the last several years on Sam Rayburn and the surrounding areas. But the press release says Bass officials announced today that Jaden Parrish has been fined after it was determined that he violated Rule 3, practice and no competition, number 4, concerning solicitation of information from the Bassmaster Open rules. Officials say they were made aware of the rule violation on February 18th, 2025, after the conclusion of the St. Croix Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn Reservoir presented by Seven. Because the results, this is the final sentence in this press release. It's a key sentence here. I'm just making sure everyone's listening. Because the results of the violation did not impact the results of the competition, Parrish was not disqualified from the event. So like any curious person would do, I went over to the Bassmaster Open rules that they highlighted, and you can see in that rule number 4, it says once the rules are published on Bassmaster.com, no competitor may purchase, solicit, or barter any information on locating or catching fish in the Bassmaster Open's tournament waters. And then it says like how you can't do it, which is pretty much every way. Like you just can't get it. And that's what that is. So he violated the no information rule, but because his violation did not impact the tournament, he was fined an undisclosed amount of money. He won $13,000 in the event for his 5th place finish. He was fined an undisclosed amount of money, keeps his points, and on we go to Kentucky Lake next week.
Yeah, it almost seems like Bass has kind of set a precedent with that now. So if my math is correct, he won close to 14,000. He was fined 4,000. He cleared 9,000.
Allegedly. The press does not disclose the amount in which he was fined.
Okay.
But I will say this. The reason you know that, I have never seen a group of anglers behind the scenes, veteran anglers that have competed at the highest level, that are now competing at the Opens, more fired up about a ruling than this. I mean, across the board, the amount of phone calls and text from anglers that have fished hundreds of tournaments on all platforms, the reaction and the raw emotion to this ruling in my 15 years of covering this sport and fishing in it, I have never seen anything like it.
Man, it just seems like more and more these days there's more drama. Stuff like this just adds to it. In my opinion, the easiest thing the leagues have to do is put on a fair contest for us. I just want a fair and level playing field, whether I catch one or not. I just want to know how I stack up that week against some really good fishermen. And it's unfortunate that, stuff like this, it's fishing. It's supposed to be fun. We all do it because we want to compete and test ourselves against the other anglers and the fish. And man, it just seems like we're getting further and further and further going down the wrong road. And, the rules seem to be getting more complex. I don't know. This one seems like it's pretty black and white to me. And I don't know the kid. I don't know the details of everything that happened, but, everybody was very clear about the no information rule. We've had one for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And, what I find ironic is yesterday on Bass Live, which I was watching, they called out the 4 guys that ran no wakes. One of them was fishing yesterday, the John Garrett guy,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him a 30-minute penalty. So they were very upfront and forthcoming about the rule violations, which were probably all four inadvertent. And then this, which was a pretty major infraction, is buried under the website and nobody wants to talk about it. Like it just, to me, it's just like they're just, trying to cover it up more. And that's not what we need. It just needs to be out front. I mean, anglers need to be held accountable by the leagues, by the industry, and by the other anglers. We're just as much to blame, I think, as the industry, and we can hold guys accountable also.
Yeah. The other thing that I find interesting is allegedly there was another DQ in this event that did not get a press release. So why did they put this out? Like, why is it not level across the board, like on all rules and fractions?
Man, I got a good idea. That they really, I believe the leagues feel like it's a black eye. It is somewhat, but I think it's hurting them more than it's helping them by trying to hide it. And I've seen this trend get worse all through, BPT when I was there for 5 years, and it definitely seems like it's getting worse. And I definitely feel like there is more people operating in that gray area or just blatantly cheating than there's ever been at all levels. And it's probably more at the very top levels than most people realize.
I would agree. And I also say, one of the reasons why Bass worked with Ray Scott was because all of the tournaments before that, if you read, I mean, look, I got Bass Boss right here. I've got the book. I've got, everything there, was because before that, a lot of the top anglers wouldn't show up because they get beat by a frozen bass. And there was no accountability to nefarious conduct during these loosely held tournaments. And Ray came in and said, we're doing this, and this. It's above board. Everybody's going to catch. And that is why people were willing to travel from around the country. Were willing to pay their hard-earned paycheck for bragging rights to beat the club from Arkansas or beat the club from Oklahoma, because they knew that when they came in, if they got their ass kicked, they got their ass kicked fair and square. And that was it. But if they did the ass kicking, no one said, oh, well, you guys cheat. Like, that was the cornerstone that Ray built Bass on. And he was a salesman and for profit and tried to make as much money as he could off of it, which is completely great. But it was based on the two key words that you mentioned, fair and level.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to get to meet Ray and know him a little bit. And there's no doubt none of us would be here if it wasn't for his vision for the whole thing. But throughout my career and up until today, it just seems like that original vision that started this all, however many years, 50 years ago, it seems like we're getting further and further away from that. And it's unfortunate because there is more people fishing tournaments now, it seems like, than ever before. I mean, the kids that's there that we're fishing against in the opens now, and the crop that's coming through the high school and college fishing ranks is unbelievable. And they are unbelievably talented anglers, most of them. And it's just unfortunate for them, because I had hoped when I started that this would be in a better place when I retired. And I see it just becoming harder and harder for somebody to make a career out of this like I did.
Is there anyone to blame? There's a lot of anglers that are 18 years old to 25 years old that are doing this the right way, that are incredible examples, that are excellent representations of what MLF, FLW, and BASS wanted when they started the juniors to the high school to the collegiate. I mean, you talk about the stair step, and then we wonder why. Well, yeah, these guys have been fishing multi-day tournaments around the country since the time they were 13. Like, yeah, they're seasoned vets. Like, it's not like you get in and you're like, oh my God, it's a BFL and you're nervous. Like, these guys have been fishing stuff. But there also seems to be a very small subset, which we focus on a lot, as the small subset, not the 98% of guys that are doing things right. But there does seem to be a subset of anglers in that category that are way more focused on the result than doing the process correctly.
I would agree with you 100%.
And that's kind of what scares me. Like, whose responsibility is it to say, hey, the results don't matter if the process isn't done correctly?
Man, it's a I get it, man. I can fish and I can do math. And the math of fishing for a living now it's becoming more difficult every year. I honestly will give Bass credit because I did the math on the payout after they announced no entry fees. And for the first time in a long time, they did invest more money into the payout this year. It was really it was pennies based on how much money is involved in a tour like the Elite Series, but it was still a step in the right direction this season for the Elite Series guys. Um, but since I've been in it, the first two Forest Wood Cups I fished paid $1 million. You mentioned Kevin Hawk won 600,000. I
Yeah.
finished second. I won 125 finishing second. When I won it, I won 500,000. And now,
Mm-hmm.
our championships pay 300. And it just, it's unfortunate, um, because I believe there's still potential there. Like there's more people that love tournament fishing. I mean, you can go to any lake. Like I went to Seminole 2 Saturdays ago, and I couldn't believe how many people was there. I ran into the creek, and there's 150 high school kids in there fishing a tournament that day. I mean, and I used to never see anybody up there. It's cool to see that many,
Yeah.
especially young kids out there
Oh, I get messages from
fishing.
them too. I'm sure you do, where they're like, "Hey, I'm, an aspiring deal." Like, I talked about this on another podcast that I did, where like I was walking next to Rick Pierce up to the meeting, and he's like, "Look around. What do you see?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Look at the guys walking up." And I said, "They're all kids." And he goes, "Exactly. Isn't that what we wanted? Isn't that what we've been trying to do? Was get the next generation in?" He's like, "Look at all these kids." He's like, "It's awesome." He's thinking, they're going to be running cats. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's kind of the same thing you're talking about.
Yeah, man. And I don't have the answers. I really
Mm-hmm.
don't. Like I fish tournaments. I don't want to run tournaments.
Oh
I
God,
know
no.
it's a very difficult proposition what those leagues try to do. Um, but I just see there's all these little, this is our initiative. This is what's going to fix things. This is what's going to make it better. And none of it, they're making the same mistakes over and over, whether it's, we're going to live stream all these days. And, they're spending an awful lot of money doing all these things, and they're getting further and further away from what the whole thing is about in the beginning, which is just having a good tournament.
Mm-hmm.
you know, we can go down here on Tuesday evening and we all put our money in a jar and we fish for 100% payback. 100% of the guys that show up, their money goes into a jar and the best fisherman's going to take it home. And it
Mm-hmm.
just seems like, these days, the cost of traveling around the country to do this and the kind of money that the majority of the fishing industry is willing to spend on a guy, a professional angler, is just getting less and less and less as expenses. There's going to be guys next year fish the BPT that pay close to $7,000 entry fees, $6,800 entry fees. Like
Holy
that is
smoke.
unbelievable. And they're going to get to practice for, I believe they practice for 2 days now, or maybe three, and then they get to fish 2 days of a tournament for that.
Yeah. What were the
Wow.
entry fees when you started fishing the FLW tour? Weren't they like 3,500 or something?
2,500 a
20
tournament, I
for a
believe.
tour
Yes,
that was
yes, and
paying
we were fishing
100K to win
$1 million championships.
with $1 million championship.
Yeah, and I mean a buddy of mine, and do you know Rob Newell?
Heck yeah, I know Rob Newell.
Did you read his book he finished last fall? I don't.
I have not read the book yet. That is on my to-do list.
I mean, there's probably not been a better documentation of this sport from the beginning to now than that, and I think he did a really good job of having an unbiased opinion about everything from the ESPN days to now to forward facing sonar and just the entire thing. I mean, he literally spent 2 years of his life writing. It's called Egos, Logos, and Fishing Pros. And I'm not getting any kickback from Rob. He is a friend of mine. But if you want to do this for a living, I think it would be wise to read it. So just so you can understand a lot of what I'm talking about with you today, like as far as history and mistakes and things that's worked, you know, throughout the history of this 50 years of this sport.
Yeah. If I was to put a Mount Rushmore of influential media members, like in the history of professional bass fishing, I'm putting Rob Newell on that. Like, that dude has his knowledge base, the way he goes about it, his attitude. I mean, I'm putting him in the top 5, Randall.
Yeah, man. And I mean, he was a fisherman first.
Yep.
He's pretty well educated. He went to Auburn. Don't hold that against him. But he has not made a lot of money over the years doing this. He literally did it because he loves bass fishing and he loves the guys. He loves the anglers. He loves to see what makes Brent Ayler good or KVD good. You know, like he's studied all of us. He studied you, I'm sure, at some point. Like, that's just who he is. And I was proud of him for finishing the book. And you know, he's still involved a little bit in the industry, working for MLF.
Yeah. There was another one that was similar. It was like Bass Madness, Big Bass, Big Stage, and Big Dreams at the Bassmaster Classic. Have you read that one? It came out like 10, 15 years ago. It was about like Iconelli with the flame jerseys and everything that went on behind the scenes. Anyway, from what I remember, that dude kind of got like, Randall just got a call. He'll be back then with the audio. That dude kind of got a little, I think, like kind of blackballed after he wrote that. But it's a good time to take a break. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, more with Randall Tharp. We're going to get into the old school Florida stuff. He was fired up. He was fired up to see Bill Lowen flip and jig his way to his second Elite Series trophy, his first coming in 2021 on Pickwick there. You know, he had that giant fish that he caught where he's like, stay on. Jay Shakurat, always impressive, narrowly missing that. And then Ryan Armstrong on the Kissimmee chain over at the MLF Invitational, where they do the 1 day with scope, 1 day without, and then the final day with 68.06, outlasting the one and only Drew Gill. It's a Monday. BTL. We will be back right after this. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's 2 best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Monday. Chatting with Randall Tharp. I forgot to tell you to put your phone in do not disturb mode. I'm assuming you got a call or text.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my fault. So then you have to like go out and get back in. So what I forgot to tell you is if you put your phone in do not disturb, then it won't kick you out. So if you do it again, if that happens again, you just have to exit and get back in. Dude, so during the break, I was like looking at your old school, because we're going to talk old school Florida fishing now, at your old school FLW pictures. Like, you have some of the most badass pictures on your old FLW profile. Like, first of all, like, I'll just like show some of them. It's like a what's what of Florida baits. So like, look, you've got like the sneaky, was that the old Reaction Innovations like nose cone that only the savviest of grass fishermen knew? It's like a weightless hollow cone that helped prevent grass.
Oh yeah, a little belly weighted hook on there too. Like, you're showing all my little secrets.
Well, this is on the site, and then like this is just another picture: swim jig, frog, punching beaver, and then like if you look at like there it is right there. Look at that, the Snickers M&M's dual combo with the white swim jig.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I mean, you are way back there. I mean,
no, I am. That's what I'm saying. This is like a what's what of Florida fishing. So like with the palm trees in the background, and then you just get to the fishing stuff, and you can't see any water in any of the pictures. It's just you in grass.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, Rob took a lot of those pictures. That was a Forest Wood Cup at the Red River. That's right where I won the tournament, actually.
That's you and McMillan just having a hardcore stare off.
Yeah, that was a pretty historic event, just as far as the weights caught, and really the beginning of mine and his friendship. That picture was the year I won. There,
look, you're catching so many fish that you have tendonitis in your forearm. Had to wear one of those bands.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was really strange period of time there where I kept a punching rod in my hand for several seasons, and they actually talked about that on Bass Live yesterday, is how there's not much of that going on anymore. There's just a lack of vegetation, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys really just have like a burning desire to go back, like, honestly,
yeah, that's awesome.
That's a pretty strong set of photos right now that just live on your profile over on.
Dude, you're making me feel good. I mean, it is my birthday today, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. Congratulations, or happy birthday. You congratulate. I guess you congratulate someone on their birthday.
At my age, you
happy
don't look
birthday.
forward to birthdays. Like, I'm getting to the age now where you don't want to see them coming.
We were saying this. You top 50 power fishing on Rayburn, which you had to be one of the only 5 guys who were doing that.
Dude, I don't know. I didn't feel like anybody's doing it, because the only boat I saw the entire week was Rick Clun. It was in one of the creeks I was fishing. But man, I practiced probably more out in the middle, scoping, than I did fishing shallow. But every time I would run to the bank, it wouldn't take long to get a bite. And man, I didn't think I could win, but I thought I could catch 20 a day up there. If conditions would have stayed like they were in practice, it was a lot of fun.
Someone else who caught him close to the shore, you watched, you got on Bass Live, you said, and watched a bunch of the kind of the ending of that Elite Series event that Bill Owen got a second trophy in.
Yeah, man, I was obsessed with that tournament because I thought it was a really cool dynamic of the scopers catching them with a jerk bait, and then Bill Lowen in a creek, you catching them swimming a jig. And dude, just you could feel how tough it was for Bill yesterday, and he's a good friend of mine. I was pulling for him, but gosh, did it make me nervous, like just the struggles he went through, and no win is easy. And he definitely earned every bit of that one. And it was cool because you could tell he was defeated when he weighed in. Like, he thought he had lost the tournament. He had no idea that he had won. I thought all that was really cool. Like, and it was just cool to see a guy with a swim jig, something that he's the best at, do his thing and win a tournament. And watching Bobby the week before that was more of the same. you
Do you
know.
think it's and you're a perfect example of this, because I'd like to know if you've gone through this. Has it been a challenge to stick with your strengths as the trendy or the primary thing has gone, offshore, more finesse, straight scoping? Does it play with your mind when you're up there doing what you're the best at, and that it's probably not, or that the majority are doing something else? Like, do you think that was in the back of Bill's mind while he was flipping that? Like, John Garrett had just come in with a 30-something pound string. You obviously drove around Rayburn and saw what was going on there. Was that in Bill's mind? Is that in your mind the last couple of years as you compete?
Man, of course it is. I mean, we're there trying to win a tournament, like, and there are definitely some events that I feel like just a lamb being led to the slaughter, like like Clark Hill's a perfect example. Like, I never did anything except scope that whole week. I finished in the middle of the pack there. It tells you where I'm at as far as, and it tells you where the other guys are at as far as how good they are at it. I would consider myself pretty good with it, but I'm not elite or great like a lot of those younger guys are. And yeah, man, it's another part to this giant puzzle that you try to figure out. And yeah, it's definitely changed the game. I mean, there's no doubt that it's the most powerful piece of equipment that has come along since I've been doing this. As far as one item, everything affects it. We've had huge advances in every little piece, from rods, reels, line, boats, engines, to now this live scope and stuff. And it's an amazing tool. Like, it really is powerful. And yeah, it's hard for us to forget what it's taken a lifetime to learn, And do I feel like if I could just have my mind erased and I started over in a year, would I be way better off? Probably. But I don't want to change the way I fish. Like, I enjoyed Rayburn being the only guy on the bank. I mean, I did.
Like, when you say only guy on the bank, like, you literally only saw 2-3 guys the entire day of your tournament day with a 236 boat field.
That's correct. I mean, I saw boats when I would run around.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to pass them out in the middle, but I never pulled up somewhere and there was somebody fishing where I wanted to fish. And that was really nice. Did I, I felt like I could possibly make the top 10 if it had been a 3-day event. I knew what was going to happen, and I knew what's capable of happening on that lake, especially with that technology. But I thought I could 20-pound them to death and somehow squeak into the top 10 by the time it was over, fishing like I like to fish. And man, it's, I left there with my head held high, man. Like there was a lot of good fishermen behind me, and would I've liked to finish better? Of course I would have. But, man, I still had a flipping stick in my hand for the entire day and got a lot of bites. And I'm not complaining. Life's good.
Yeah. Is it hard to step back to fishing the opens after winning the Forestwood Cup and being on the BPT and being on the Bassmaster Elite Series, and then to show up to the opens? Like, I'm not gonna lie. So, like, I remember with Stefan and Berghoff, and we were there eating at that burger place at Rayburn. Matt Steffens won an invitational event. Berghoff's fished on the invitationals before. I've made no bones about it. Like, I made my money on the on BTL, right? And then I blow it all fish in the opens, but I enjoy the hell out of it. And you guys left, and I looked at him and I said, dude, they have to be like, what the hell are we doing here? It's Russ Lade and Randall Tharp, and they're like in the opens. I'm like, those are like dudes, man. Like, they're professional anglers. Like, how have you, and it seems like you've like really done a good job of kind of mentally adjusting to that grind to get back to, I would assume your ultimate goal is the Elite Series. But what is that challenge like amongst there's a couple dozen of them that are top pinnacle anglers that are now in the opens, and you've seen guys like Christie, and Scott Martin and Ike and a bunch of guys that have come in. We saw it this past year with Cody Meyer and stuff where they're just like dunk, 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 and then they're on to the next one. Just kind of walk me through that mental kind of grind of how you've been able to stay so positive. Because you seem like really positive, dude.
Dude, I'm having fun fishing those tournaments. Those are the style tournaments that I fell in love with fishing in. I spent a lot, back when I started, I fished every tournament I could get in. I fished 2 tours one year. The only 2 that the schedules aligned, I fished the FLW Tour and the Elite Series my rookie year on the Elites. But dude, it is not a step back for me. Do you want me to sit here and tell you it's my ultimate goal to go back to the Elites? It's not.
Really?
I mean, man, I'm just having fun fishing. I have built my business, and it is a business. It's would I like to win some more trophies? Definitely. I've got some room in my office for a few more. But I've had a good career, and I've worked for some great companies, and I'm very involved with just about all of them. From Gary and Teresa at Phoenix to my jigs and my baits and all my signature stuff. Like, my business is better now than it was when I was fishing the Elites, and it's better than when I was on the BPT. But I do feel like I just need to fish some events to stay sharp. It gives me an opportunity to keep working on the projects that I'm working on with those companies. And, if I qualify, look, I'm going to try to win every tournament I go fish and do the best I can. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But ultimately, like when I made the decision to leave BPT, I would love to fish one more classic, because I felt like the last classic I fished in Knoxville, it was after the split. It was kind of a weird vibe. It just didn't feel right. It was definitely a lot different from my first one in New Orleans years and years ago. But man, I wouldn't say like, people, I wish you'd get back to the Elites. Well, man, don't feel like, I'm fine. I'm having a good time fishing. It's not a step back. It's fun. I don't feel like a whole lot of pressure like I used to earlier in my career. I just go try to have fun, fish to my strengths, and do the best job I can for the companies that's been supporting me for most of them my whole career.
Yeah, one of those is ARC primarily. Like, it seems like you that's where a lot of your signature series stuff is, right?
Yeah, man, and it's a relatively small company still, but I think we're making a pretty big impact. We do some pretty innovative stuff, whether it was originally with the rod technology to now we're working on a whole line of hooks that we've been working on for a couple of years. My signature stuff is still the best selling stuff at the company. So I don't, we've worked really hard on it. And my boss there, the guy that owns the company, I mean, he's just like us. He's just obsessed with building stuff to catch fish. And, Ed Chambers at Zoom was that way. Olivero, Power Poles that way. Like, I've been fortunate in my career to work for some of those kind of people that are just like me, just trying to build a better mousetrap to catch a fish.
So that's a deal where you're working like directly with the owners and things like that, where they're saying, hey, when it comes to the Randall Tharp signature series flip and jig, like, it's not where they just give you a jig and you slap your name on it. It's like you're going, hey, this, and this.
Yeah, I've had a couple jigs before with some other companies, but they were the first one that let me build the most important part of it, which is the hook. Every jig is without a good hook, the rest of it's irrelevant.
All right, walk us through what makes that hook the best.
Okay, so the first thing I did different is it's not a 45-degree line tie bend there, so it's 30 degrees.
Okay,
so that's a little lower. So that allows a couple different things. So I increased the gap from where the knot is to the hook point without making a gigantic gap in the hook, which makes it more weedless. And you'll notice there that's O'Shaughnessy bend hook, which that's the only one in a jig that you can buy. And I can't take credit for that shape hook. Aaron Martin's got me on that hook years ago. He designed a lot of really good hooks for Gamakatsu at that time. And but ultimately, dude, me and a lot of the other jig fishermen through the years, we all poured our own jigs. We used a 291 bronze Gamakatsu because it was the sharpest raw hook you could buy. And up until I built this hook, that was still the best hook you could buy. And ironically, they don't even make that hook anymore. Gamakatsu doesn't. So, but those are just a few of the things on that jig right there. The angle of the weed guard, hand-tied skirt, the keeper being on the top.
Does that
that's
just
separate.
not chew your stuff up as much?
Well,
With
I
the
don't
keeper
like
on
the
the top?
keeper on. Well, I'm not a guy that threads a chunk on there, except occasionally. I'll thread a speaker on there sometimes. But yeah, if it's on the bottom and you have a chunk hanging on the back, it's gonna hang cover. So
I got you.
but it's
So is that a Gamakatsu hook in there, or is that just a similar?
no, we built the hook.
Okay. I
The
just
hook's
said there are a bunch of people that were asking about that.
No, it's a arc hook, and believe it or not, I've already got one that I feel like is better. But
Really?
we're waiting on all the patents and stuff to come back, and yeah, I'm actually fishing with some jigs that have a thinner, stronger hook than that.
Diameter key to you on a flipping hook. Then you want the smallest diameter that doesn't flex, I would assume. So
That's correct.
less energy to create hook penetration without making a bigger hole.
That's correct.
Look at that. It's like I know how to flip. I like to say that. I'm gonna have to clip that. That makes me sound very intelligent.
That was Lintner's color, by the way, that you had up there. Jared Lintner gave me that
Yeah.
color, so that's another cool thing. I got one of Denny's colors in there.
Was it
Lintner's
just
color.
you can't call black and blue? It's just black and blue, isn't it?
That color has some yellow and red in it.
Oh, it
That
does?
Lintner's
Okay, I'm gonna have
jig
to pull
there.
that
I call
out.
it's the Milkman. Milkman color is Lintner's, DB Specials, Denny's. I've got a AM special coming out. Andy Morgan, one of his colors. So
He just top 10.
yes. I was happy to see him down there, dude. It's kind of crazy that we've had this start that we've had this year. Like watching the tournaments, and I think Scopin was a big part of all of them, but Scopin hasn't won yet this year, has it? At least on the top level, the elites and
No.
BT. So
Yeah, that's got to feel good to watch the guys in Florida just jack this. Like I had Big Show on before, and I mean, I don't think Big Show gets enough credit for his finesse game, which I mean, he's been a finesse fisherman for as long as I've covered him, but still, like, man, there's something about watching a fish explode when you set the hook that is like primal. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I have sold out hard the last year on jig head minnows, like legitimate. Like I've sold out so hard. I had one bait caster in the boat at Rayburn, and I made 2 casts with a jerk bait, and I had 7 minnows. I have not made a cast with anything else, and will not make a cast with anything else, probably for the next 6 months. But
well,
but like I'm also old school too, right? So like just as much as I love like leaning into one and watching them eat it, like there's something about watching a guy set the hook and the water just goes boom. That's like awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm the same way. I really decided at the beginning of last year that I was going to start trying to get better with that whole thing, and I have no idea how much money I've spent on all different kinds of jig heads and minnows up to this point. But yeah, man, it's like I spend my practices doing that, kind of, and then somehow on tournament day, I always end up on the bank with a flipping stick. But
have you gotten in the boat with any of the guys who are like really, really good with it yet, and just spent a couple days with them?
Dude, not really. I've had some offers. Like last year at Okeechobee, had a good tournament there, and ever since then I got to know Tucker Smith and that Paul Marks a little bit.
Yeah,
I talked to them two, super talented anglers. At the end of the season, I met Logan Parks at may have been the River tournament, and I don't know of all the young anglers if any of them has impressed me as much as Logan Parks has. Just as far as, I mean, most of them kids won't speak to me, but he went out of his way to introduce himself. And I was really kind of just taken back. And I was like, man, this kid's sharp. Like he's got it, and then I start studying the kid and, find out his tournament that he's running. And I do feel like, regardless of what happens with Bass and MLF or MPFL, these leagues, I think that generation of anglers that I just mentioned, I feel like will mold this into where I can see it going and making it better one day, because they're really, really talented and they're really, really smart.
Yeah, he's like I say, he does the Logan's Parks Foundation. He does that chaos fishing deal where they pair up like college anglers with high school kids. He's got the charity element. He was one of those guys, one of the 3 guys who's live streaming his entire season on the Elite Series. For now, we'll see what Bass does with that. Like they've kind of encouraged that, but he's live on YouTube with that. He does a great job contacting, working with the media, going through it. And he's also got a little bit of swag. Like he's kind of got the flow and the gold chain and stuff like that. He got a guy at his 20s. So yeah, Logan Park's very impressive. Plus, the other half of that duo that won the $1 million on Table Rock.
Yeah. And
I mean, how crazy is that? They're both on the Elite Series now. They win that $1 million thing and then like, boom, boom.
Yeah, it'll be interesting watching them. Tournaments like the one they just left at St. John's and the one they're going to at Okeechobee is going to be definitely, I think, challenging for them. Tucker and Paul taught them. They were 2nd and 4th last year at the Open doing their thing. It's pretty impressive. I think they'll probably, figure out some way to fish to their strength there. But
I say that to say this, like, just real quick to finish that thought on that. Like, think about how valuable when you're dialed in on Okeechobee, if someone just got in your boat who wasn't a great, just as far as locations and how you go about it. I've had the privilege to get in the boat with some of these younger kids and just sit there and A, watch the screen, and B, ask why. And it is the learning curve on it and the confidence level, like, done. Like you should trade a couple days of minnowing with Tucker for like, hey, this is called grass. And this is
yeah. Well, Tucker hasn't offered. Paul has, and right now it's just both of us have pretty busy schedules, and but I definitely he comes down here to where I live and plays around a little bit. I tell you, the thing that I'm most impressed about those guys is back when in the peak of my career, I fished every day. Everything was always to get ready for the next tournament. Even if the tournament was next year, I would go pre-fish a year in advance, at the same time. Like I did everything I could to give myself a chance, to learn and to get comfortable on a body of water. And that's what those kids are doing now. I know for a fact that they fish every single day that they possibly can. And they're trying to hone their craft, what they're good at. And it's cool to see. And I like to see hard work like that's rewarded, whether it's with a scope or whatever, like what Bill Lowen did yesterday with his swim jig. That's a lifetime of experience that it took to get 4 bites yesterday to win that tournament.
Mm-hmm. You ready for the smallmouth tournament next weekend?
Smallmouth tournament?
Yeah, we're going to Kentucky Lake.
Kentucky Lake.
There's everyone just wins on smallmouth now.
Dude,
largemouth. There's no largemouth left in there, Randall.
Well, there is a few. I filmed. I did the ultimate match fishing there last year. I think it was a week later in March on Kentucky Lake, and I mean, I saw real quick that I was there for like almost 2 weeks doing that show.
Oh, really?
And dude, the smallmouth that place has changed a lot since I fished there the first time, and the smallmouth is pretty amazing how big they've gotten. But I promise you this, I may end up smallmouth fishing in the tournament, but you're not going to see Randall Tharp in practice. That place is big enough I can get away, do my thing somewhere.
Nice. We got that, and then I mean, I kind of like how they front loaded the. I mean, you're fishing both divisions of them. I'm only fishing Division 2, but I mean, it's kind of that, and then we're done in that division until August on Leech. I thought Leech was a really cool fishery. It was weird going to like a new body of water. Like I really enjoyed Leech, just the people, the crowds, the way it's set up. I know we had a cancel day there with weather. The cancellations are something that I don't know what to think about, because I understand bass and like, I know you posted on that and it was like, I was like, okay, I get it, but I go back and forth between you're at a level where you need to learn how to operate a vessel. That there is the potential for danger in it. And we have the ability to look ahead and see what the forecast is. So just because you practiced in an area that's 30 miles of 7-footers doesn't mean you have to run there in the tournament. Also doesn't mean they have to cancel the tournament just because you made a poor decision because you didn't look ahead for the weather. I also understand if 236 go out, you want 236 to come back. You have insurance. It is a top level tournament, not a club level tournament. So there's going to be more safety. Like, I'm conflicted on that. I will never, I'll say he made a bad decision, but I will never like bash Hank or Bass for canceling a day for safety. But I do think there also is a line of maybe being a little bit overcautious where you're taking some of the gamesmanship and veteran decision-making out of play by canceling so many days. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, for sure. Like I've watched this, and there was always days canceled even back in the beginning of my career, but it was one day a year, not one day per event, which is we're averaging worse than that right now at the Opens. Dude, there's a lot of reasons for it. Like I can remember fishing tournaments and literally there would be 2 or 3 people go out there and they would come back and everybody fished within sight of the takeoff. It was that bad. And that's what you did. Like they wouldn't cancel a day for anything. I can remember distinctly because we're fixing to go to Kentucky Lake. I was at Kentucky Lake at an FLW tour event. And I remember having a good event, but I didn't make the final day, but I had to go to the launch for a sponsor obligation. And there was literally this wall cloud coming with tornadoes and the sirens were going off. And I'm not making this up. Bill Taylor said, boys, we might let y'all go a little early so we can get this tent cleaned up before the tornado gets here. So we're going to get y'all out on the water. And he let them go. And I'll never forget that because there was only one guy in that top 10 was Tom Mann Jr. And he looked at Bill and he said, you're damn crazy, Bill. And he went and got in a little bathhouse at the bathroom at the takeoff. And we all stood there as the tornadoes came across the lake. And I remember Jason Christie and whoever else was in the top 10 were running down the lake. And I mean, that's how much it's changed, to where we're at today. And
which way's right, Randall?
Man, I don't think either one of those is right, to be honest with you. I don't have the answers. I do get it from the leagues. There's more tournaments now than ever before. And scheduling these events, a lot of it could be done with scheduling. But when you have an elite series and you got Major League Fishing and MPFL and these top level tours are going to get more money from the cities and they're going to get probably the premium windows at whatever part of the country it is. So then you go back to the AAA level tournaments and we're kind of getting the leftovers. And, it's not particularly the best time of year at the best lake like they're trying to do it. They don't always do it at the top level, but it's even harder at our level, at the open level. So, man, it's difficult. But as a tournament bass fisherman who's been doing this a long time, I looked at the open schedule and I looked at Clark's Hill, and the first thing I said was, man, it's probably going to snow there. And it did. And I looked at Rayburn, I said, dude, there'll be a bad front. There's going to be some storms and it's going to blow. They're going to cancel that. And they did. And guess what's going to happen next week at Kentucky Lake? If we get through that event without a day being canceled, it will be a miracle. Because I was there for 2 weeks last year at the exact same time. And we were relegated to fishing in one creek because it blew like 30 miles an hour for like 4 days straight.
Oh, crap. You're right. It is scheduled. There's a front coming in, and it's scheduled to be blowing its ass off on Tuesday and Wednesday. Look,
I mean, it's just inevitable, like that part
Tuesday,
of the country this time of year.
Sustained. Wednesday, boom, there's the cold front, 50s. 15 miles an hour sustained. Oh, wait, no. That's because it's an average. Like at 7, it'll be blowing 23 the day before the tournament.
But the point I'm trying to make is I didn't have to look at a weather forecast to tell you it was going to do that. Would we have been safer in April? Yes. I mean, dude, there's a chance of a freak weather event anywhere, anytime. But when you line a tournament up in, Kentucky Lake in March, the windiest month of the year probably, and gosh, man, as much rain as they've had, and whether the lake's flooded or not, I don't think it is, but you talk about current, meet, and wind, and it is life-threatening. And there, I don't want to go out there in that. And and put my old body through that beating that I know it's going to take. But man, you know, those are the reasons why. I mean, it's just an overload of tournaments. There's only so many cities paying the leagues for us to come, and you know, I do love Kentucky Lake. And like you said, it's a different fishery now. I'm looking forward to going there. Paris, Tennessee's cool town. You know, fisherman friendly, nice people, and dude, we're gonna catch a pile of fish regardless of whether the wind blows or not.
Now, the good thing is it is saying that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we're talking about 9, 7, and 7 with 21-mile-an-hour winds on Wednesday. So the front comes through. So right now, the extended forecast, it looks like we might possibly get 3 days in. If it doesn't change, forecasts never change 15 days out. So we should be good.
Dude, I hope so. I would love to fish a full event like for the first time this year. I really would.
All right, one more thing I want to ask you about, then I'll let you go. I appreciate your time here on BTL talking with Randall Tharp. I am a sucker for a sheep's head on a fiddler crab. Like if I had one more day to fish in my life, I think it would be scraping the barnacles off to create a chum slick, 20-pound test leader, 7.6 medium heavy rod. Sometimes you drop shot it, sometimes you Carolina rig it, and a 10 fish limit, a sheep's head. It like combines everything that's good about bass fishing with a hard fighting fish. You've caught a few fish out of the Gulf in your day. I know that's one of your passions. If you were to pick a week and a number of species, like what is the ultimate week of saltwater fishing in the Gulf in your opinion, and when is the best time to get out there?
Dude, for me, I mean, we have a lot of sheephead here.
You're not a sheep's head guy?
Dude, I have never went targeting sheephead.
Oh, get out it. Dude, you are missing out on one of the finest fishing experiences on earth.
Yeah, I actually have tried to catch a few on fly. They're very hard to get to eat a fly. And that's one thing that I love to challenge myself with is catching big saltwater fish on fly. But if I had to give you my favorite times, I like for tarpon fishing here, I like the full moon in May. It's when we have our biggest fish, our resident fish that come out. That's early season here, but it's like the rut of, in deer season for me. And then if redfish is my year-round fish here, and I would say early November for that. So those are two of my favorite times. And I've had my captain's license now it's my second year. This is really the first year I ran some decent amount of trips, and dude, I've enjoyed the crap out of it. Like it's one thing to understand your fish and your fishery, but showing up to the boat ramp and picking up a client and seeing what you're dealing with for the day, it's another way that I continue to try to get better and challenge myself, because every single day is it's a different set of challenge, and I've gotten way better at communicate, at being a teacher, at being able to communicate with somebody, because you got to figure out like if I were to take you, for instance, I would have to figure out how to communicate with you to get you to do what I need you to do to have a successful day.
Then I would need to figure out how to communicate with you to take me to where the sheep's head are so I can cast a fiddler crab.
Dude, you come here in the fall or winter, I can show you millions of sheephead. It's just not something I chase.
I feel like you're judging me on that. Is that not a targeted species for like the finer saltwater anglers out there?
Dude, not in the panhandle. There are people here that target them. It's just that's not my specialty. I know Gagliardi, a bunch of the guys on the East Coast over there around that Charleston, Savannah, all up that coast. I know that's a big deal over there. Dude, they freak me out. They got like little human teeth like that. I don't even want to touch one. Like
that's why they're called sheep's head. They have sheep's teeth.
Yes, man. And they are not they're just kind of bony, and they're just not a really pretty fish, I don't think, but
they're delicious.
They're
like sure hard to hook because of those lips. You have to be very sly, or else you get straight tooth and then they pop off. They nibble around the hook. They're very They're very intriguing creatures to me.
Yeah, dude. Like I definitely know a little bit about them. You know,
But like your
I'm,
primary thing, like your guide trips primarily, are they primarily fly fishing for reds, or is it
just
tailored for each
yeah.
client?
Yeah, not so much fly fishing. That's what I prefer to do. Most of them are sight fishing though, with spinning tackle usually.
Okay.
Um, and I'm just obsessed. Like the species that I really love, other than tarpon and redfish, is triple tail, cobia. We have a bunch of big jacks that run the beach here, that all throughout pretty much most of the year, and all of those are fish that I visually spot the fish and cast to. So it's just like watching a bass eat a topwater lure, dude. Like but they're just bigger and meaner. And man, I really didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but I really have enjoyed pushing my little boat around and coaching people into, a lot of firsts last year. I had a lot of anglers catch their first saltwater fish with me, and dude, I will never forget it. It's way more rewarding than I thought it would be.
The triple tail are the ones that like sit around the buoys and then you sight cast to them, and they're like the best eating fish on earth.
Dude, they are very tasty. I don't like to cut the sides off of too many, because I don't feel like our fishery is as good as it was when I started fishing here. But dude, they are crazy. Like if you want to talk about a crazy fish, a triple tail, everyone's different. They all have their little. It's like sight fishing a bass.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone that you fish for is a little bit different. Triple tail are even more different than that. Like they are just, some of them are aggressive, some of them are smart, some of them seem like they're the dumbest fish in the ocean. Um, and I did that for years. I mean, I had a boat that was built for that, sight fishing those things. And gosh, man, you talk about some fun. And I've showed it to a few people. I've taken B Height, McClelland, had Lintner on the boat a couple times. Uh, several guys in our circle, I've pushed around and showed them a little bit.
Randy, RANDYTHARP.com. If you guys want to take a look on that. I don't know if these prices, all this stuff up to date on the website.
Yeah, all that stuff's up to date.
Okay, there you go. 600 half day, 900 full day, and then custom trip. Also, if you guys want to book a trip with Mr. Tharp to get out and chase some redfish or triple tail or custom trip, whatever. Now, there is a list of things that he does not want you to bring. What?
I don't know if I did this list or my wife did it, but let's hear it.
What? Here's what you can bring. Maybe it'll give you a list of what it'll help you guess. I'm going to have you guess what's on your website is what you would like people not to bring. So you can bring a hat, rain gear, polarized sunglasses, a camera and sunscreen. There's a very specific type of sunscreen you're not allowed to bring. Lunch, snacks, beverages, and then you can also bring your own rods and bait if you want. Please don't bring. Let's see if you can guess. What's on the list of things not to bring saltwater fishing with Randall Tharp? Don't look. You can't look.
I can tell you, spray sunscreen is
spray sunscreen is number one.
It's the worst thing you could ever have to get on your seats of your boat. It does something to the vinyl of your bass boat seats, or like it will not come off.
Spray sunscreen is number one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other things.
What not to bring? You're going to have to enlighten me, because
black marking sole shoes.
Yeah, because we don't have carpet in saltwater boats. It's all non-skid, and it will literally, you'll spend two weeks trying to get the black marks off your boat.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
That's standard.
The next one is standard on any sort of vessel. Glass containers. No, that doesn't match. Well, unless it's a can of Uncle Josh pork rinds. No glass in the vessel.
That's correct.
This next one's completely understandable. GPS devices. You don't want anyone else out there at the Gulf snaking your triple tail.
Yeah, especially, some of the fads and stuff that we have here that we spend a lot of money and time building, and, little secret juice, little secret sauce out there.
Yep. Illegal drugs. Don't need to be doing any lines in between fish on the water.
Dude, like the FWC and the Coast Guard, they don't really mess around too much. Like when they board your vessel, you're going to get checked. Everything's going to get checked. So.
Yeah, and weapons. So
that's correct. Because if I start yelling at somebody, the last thing I want to
Yeah.
worry about them pulling out a 9 on me and firing me off my polling platform.
So those are the things not to bring if you book with Randall Tharp. And you do this just kind of in between your schedule and your appearances and stuff year round now.
Yeah, man. Like I really last year started doing that. And really what I would like to build that business into is just where I got about 10 guys that I really enjoy fishing. And, you know, they'll come fish a week with me in tarpon season and come fish a week with me, you know, in the fall and redfish season. And right now, after 1 year of doing this, I've got one. So if I can get one per year, by the time I retire, I'll have my 10 guys. But, you know, it is very rewarding, like I said, and you know, still kind of testing the water with it all.
Mhm.
I got some good friends here, some really good guides, but it is turning into a much more tourist destination than it was when I moved here. So I could probably have all the work I want here. It's just, you know, there's only so many guides here and there's way more people that want to go fishing than guides. So
You're trying to get that Matt Reed set up. Like what he does on Falcon, where it's like 98% return clients that have fished with them for a decade. And it's just like he jumps in the boat with his buddies for 3 or 4 days every single time.
yeah, dude, that's not an easy thing. Like my buddies here that have that set up, they've been doing it their whole lifetime. It takes a lot of years to build that customer base. I think in bass fishing, probably the best, the guy that's done the best with that I've seen is, and I don't know Matt Reed, I don't know his setup, but Alex Davis.
Yep.
Dude, I think he's built that. I mean, I remember when he came to Guntersville, the spinnerbait kid, you know, and I'm like, this kid's like 17. Like, but that guy has got it dialed in as far as a bass fishing guide service on a lake. Like he's making a really good living, and like what you're doing with this show, like he just goes and fish bass tournaments because it's fun.
Mm-hmm. You said the spinnerbait kid there. Did you get a Scope Goat business card on your truck at Rayburn?
I did not.
No,
I did not. I feel.
Stefan came back. So you know that I think he's from Florida. That kid who won the team deal. He's literally like 19 years old, and he's fishing it, and he's got like his name is the Scope Goat, and like if you look at his jersey on it, it's like a goat with a bullseye in it.
That's awesome.
That just reminded me of the spinnerbait kid when you said that. And then so he went around and put Scope Goat business cards on all the Opens trucks with like it's like a learn to scope deal. So if you need to learn to scope, he'd take you out and teach you for a small price.
Dude, maybe I should hire him before we get too much further into the season. Maybe he'll have some better finishes.
I don't remember what his name was, but I mean, more power to him. That's an entrepreneurial spirit at its most. Anything else, Randall, before I let you go?
Man, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. You know, we covered a lot of topics. But dude, I just want to tell everybody, I mean, I'm having fun. I'm happy. You know, it's interesting because I feel like this sport is in this pivotal time right now. It's a lot of change over the last 2 or 3 years. Things have kind of settled down since a split, and I'm kind of just sitting back seeing where it goes. But I do hope it gets better for the young kids out there and the guys that want to make a living doing what I've done for 20 years now.
Good stuff. I appreciate it, Randall.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you at Kentucky Lake. Well, no, I won't see you at Kentucky Lake because you said you're fishing sneaky stuff all practiced.
I will.
I'll see you at the meeting. I have a feeling the meetings are back in.
Oh my gosh, man! I hope not.
I have a sneaky suspicion. A sneaky suspicion that's what they sold the Chamber of Commerce was in-person meetings.
Hey, I have one question for you before we go.
Yes.
What about the staggered takeoff thing? Like, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is it's gave a really great excuse for me as to why I finished in the middle of the pack because I did not take off until 9:10. But here's my other opinion on that. I'm glad you asked me about that. Now that you asked me about that, Rand, I'll tell you how it was. For those that don't know, at Rayburn, and I've talked a little bit about this, because it was a 1 day, Bass, quote, values equal fishing time greater than takeoff number. So typically if you had a 2 day and then they reverse the flight, everybody gets the same amount of time. But because it was a 1 day, they took off boats 1 through 10, then they waited 10 minutes, or 1 through 15, then they waited 10 minutes. Then they took off 15 through 30 and they waited 10 minutes. So when this came out, I contacted Bass officials and I said, listen, let's go back to what you talked about at the beginning of the show, Randall, which is fair and equal. I said, here's where I have an issue with this. I said, so everybody's getting 8 hours of fishing time. Correct. I said, but if I'm boat 1, I get 2 hours and 10 minutes before the entire field is on it. And I get first pick of all my spots and I get 8 hours. And they said, correct. I said, so if I'm boat 220, which shockingly for the 8th consecutive open, I'm below boat 180. I have contacted them. I've sent them information. They're like, yeah, that's weird. And then they just keep sticking it to me. 8 consecutive, Randall, below 180. I hired a statistician to give me the percentage chance that was random. It's like 0.00008 repeating. Anyway, that's a whole different show. So I said, I get 8 hours. You should not have asked me about this. We'd had such a good show. It'd have been so positive. I said, so I get 8 hours. Correct. I said, but by the time I get on the water, the field has already been fishing for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Correct. I said, so how is that fair? Well, because we value equal time more so than takeoff number. I said, the equality in that comes in the fact that if you take off first, you get the starting spot, you get the morning bite, you get all that. And then the guys on the back end get some extra time on the water because by the time they get to their stuff, if you're boat 200, other guys have been on it for an hour. Well, we agree to disagree on this. We don't think that that's valuable. It's equal time. It was at that point that I realized there's just some things where you just shake your head and just say, you know what, we got to make the best of the scenario. I had Garrett Paquette on. He was boat 218. Dude finished second. I was boat 219. I finished 100th. It was not a determining factor in the tournament. Now, did I roll up to my hard spot and there was another angler on it? Yes. Did that other angler maybe say when I said I was hoping they were up there, he said, quote, they were earlier? Yes. I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Randall? To me, it was a lack of understanding about actually how important and how a tournament day runs coming from someone who's never been in that situation. It shocked me that they ended up doing it that way they literally took something that was as fair and equal as it could be and made it not fair and equal for no apparent reason.
Yeah, that particular event, like I had a late one too. I was like close to 200, I think 198, something like that. I actually preferred the later. I had the lake to myself up in the bushes since I was, just spinning my wheels anyways. I wasn't going to compete up there. But, my bite was better the later it got. So I was happy about my draw. The whole thing goes back to just the, 200 and what is it? 235?
236.
Yeah, 236. Fishing 1 day, that creates a problem. I do know that this year at Clarks Hill and at Rayburn, just that sheer number of boats and one takeoff facility and everybody doing it by themselves, it has turned into a giant, at the boat ramp. And if there's one negative I can tell you that I have seen fishing the opens, it is just that part of it.
Did you get stuck in that on day one when he went out and then cancel it?
Heck no. I was still at my house at 7:00. So was I. And I went to another ramp and I got there about 7:20. And I thought I'd won because I never put my boat in. I never really, when I saw the water, I didn't think we were going and we didn't. But I thought I'd won that whole thing. And Gary Klaus called me and he's like, you think we're going? And I'm like, no, I'll call you back. They're going to make a decision in a minute. He never got out of bed. So I was pretty proud that I didn't put my boat in and Gary never got out of bed. So
no, that's a baller move. I got in line. I was at the Twin Dykes boat ramp at 7:00. when the tournament was supposed to take off, and they canceled it. Then they held it. So I never got stuck in the parking lot. I did nothing. And then I had my buddy Kevin Ledoux called, and he's like, they canceled. And I just dipped right out of line, went across the bridge, went, ooh, yeah, that doesn't look fun. Spun around and straight to the breakfast joint.
Yeah, I'm on a different program at this point in my career. Like, I used to be the guy that got there early, but in these tournaments, I'm not getting there that early. So I'm going to, whether I'm boat 10 or boat 210, like, I'm going to show up after everybody's gone usually.
Yeah. That's probably, I mean, you have to miss that about the BPT is the takeoff and dumping your boat in and all that, like zero stress, zero pressure when it comes to that stuff.
Dude,
Back
that
then,
part,
like, the
that
way
part
that
of
was.
it, yeah, that part of it I do. Like, just it was so, everybody's pretty professional, everybody's pretty seasoned. At BPT, just the boat officials are there to help. Like, everything's kind of done for you. And back when I was fishing the elites, I mean, my wife traveled with me, but she doesn't travel with me anymore. I mean, I had a personal caddy, most of my career that made it a lot easier on me than I have it now with Russ, who I feel like I got to babysit most of the time.
Do you guys still have any beagles?
Dude, I have 2 Labradors right now. So
Labrador. You had beagles. You had a beagle.
through my whole career. Like,
Yeah.
I can remember when I started fishing, carrying them around in my
Aw.
Ranger jacket, and oh yeah, but that shows you how long I've been fishing. Is we were without pets for like 6 years, and now I got a 2-year-old and a 1.5-year-old lab.
Oh wow, I bet that's fun.
Dude, they're great dogs. They're so smart. They both love the water. They love being on the boat. So it really fits my lifestyle here in Florida. And man, I wouldn't trade them for anything. So,
All right, man, I almost got out of here, and then you had to ask the freaking staging question.
man, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was such a sore subject, but
Listen, what the sore subject to me is the exact same thing that you said, fair and equal. That's it. That's all I want.
dude, if you're gonna do this as long as me, you kind of gotta take everything with a grain of salt. Nothing.
Yeah,
Well,
I
every
hear you.
time I say that nothing surprises me anymore, something still surprises me. Because when I think it couldn't get any worse, it actually does.
But I mean, I also understand if I was a guy who was, boat 1, and I'm going, well, why does that guy get to fish for 9 hours or 9.5 hours when I only get to fish for 8? I'm getting screwed out of 2 hours of fishing time, and it only takes 45 minutes to take off the full field. So he gets an extra hour, and it's a 1-day shoot. So I understand Hank's probably getting it from all sides on every single issue and topic.
Oh, he is, man. And Hank's father, Trip, was one of the better tournament directors I ever had. And I think Hank has potential to be better. But I also think that, like, I saw Trip's power kind of get less and less as the league got more involved and wouldn't let him make a decision on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, come on, man. Like, Hank, I don't think, Hank knows right from wrong. And Hank is a very smart, intelligent, good tournament director, without a doubt.
I 100% agree with that statement.
But I don't think Hank is the one ultimately making a lot of the decisions there. So,
and I 100% agree with that statement as well. Tough position to be in.
Yeah, it's a tough position. Like, that has got to be one of the hardest jobs in the world. And
who would want to do that? like, I mean,
not me. It's I don't know. I don't know who would want to do it, but I'm thankful that we have a good one at Hank, and I had a good one with. I've had some good ones. I mean, Trip was a good one. Ron Lappin was one of the better ones at FLW back in the day. We never really had one at MLF that we fished some tournaments there without even a tournament director. So it shows you the importance that they place on a fair contest.
Oh yeah, it was. There was like a half year, I think, where like it was like, yeah, that's true.
Dude, I'm not making this up. We showed up at the first tournament and we're like, well, who's the tournament director? Well, we don't have one. Well, don't you think we need to get one? Oh, well, Boyd and Gary will do it. Who were also fishing the tournament. I mean, there's no conflict of interest there. We could do a whole nother show on this topic.
Oh man, that's wild. There has to be like somewhere down the road when it comes to all that from there's got to be some sort of Netflix documentary on that. Like, dude, they've got them on like cricket. They've got like a whole documentary on the the competitive world of growing this world's spiciest pepper, for the love of God, if you could have a 5-part controversial documentary series on Pepper X, surely you can have it on professional bass fishing.
Dude, I think people would watch it. I mean, look at I saw a photo the other day of Seth and Matt Robertson with no shirt on. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to see that?
I can think of a couple. All right, I'll get you off here before we get into any more trouble. I appreciate it, Randall. I'll see you at the Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, see you in a few days.
All right, later. There you go, Randall Tharp. Yeah, I should have had him on a long time ago. It's just like I said, there's just certain guys that you're like, well, why haven't I had him on BTL? I don't know. I think he's might become a BTL regular. So we're gonna take our final break of the show, and we come back, wrap things up on a Monday. It's BTL February 24th, 2025. We'll be back right after this.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made.
This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done. Check them out at denalifishing.com.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm gonna talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Monday. Big shout out to Randall Tharp. Really enjoyed that show. Man, like I struggle between like not even mentioning or talking about anything that could potentially be controversial, and then then afterwards I'm like, man, did I like complain about that? too much, and then like I'm struggling with between like, you know what, like this stuff doesn't like directly impact me as an open angler, like keep my nose out of it. We're fortunate to have organizations that do, you know, whether it's the NPFL, BASS, MLF, either of them, like we have options in 2025 to fish. We have great platforms that do provide us. I mean, that's why the show exists, is to cover what happens on these platforms, to talk to the characters where their personalities and their auras and legends are built because of these organizations. So it's like really easy to like nitpick it, but then you get a bunch of people that like nitpick it, and then the foundation starts to crumble. But then at the same time, you sit there and you're like, oh, well, you have to hold them accountable for things that don't seem fair and equal. And if you don't say anything, then they continue to do it. So then as an angler, you have an obligation to state your opinion, to let them know that they're not going to like get away, quote unquote, get away with things that don't make sense or that don't seem to be fair. I don't know where it all kind of fits into it. So it is what it is. So that's how I accept it. I do want to point this out. We had Chris and Trade Zaldane on the show a month ago talking about the classic crawfish boil benefiting St. Jude and Cook Children's Hospital on Monday, March 17th in Fort Worth. At the time, it was actually in downtown in the Stockyards in Fort Worth. A slight venue change. Nothing else has changed to that. It's at Texas Whiskey Ranch. It's a 21 and up, and this takes place on Monday, March 17th. It is the day before, or is the week of the Classic, the first day of the week of the Classic. So the Classic is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This is Monday. All of the Classic, or the majority of the Bassmaster Classic anglers are there. This is kind of their last day off. It is a crawfish boil, adult beverages flowing, Luke Combs tribute band, as well as some other bands will be there. Live music with the proceeds, thanks to donations from Gilchrist Automotive, amongst other sponsors, go to a combination of St. Jude and Cook Children's, which their sister company. St. Jude is a research company, research hospital, not company, research hospital, Cook's Children and them. So like some of the stuff that they do at St. This is a very down and dirty way to explain it, but the things that the doctors and scientists study at St. Jude get used at Cook's Children. Cook's Children, they're based in Fort Worth. So it goes to a good cause there at Whiskey Ranch. If you're within 3-4 hours, like this is a cool event to go to. It's from 6 to 10 p.m. Tickets must be purchased online before. Crawfish boil, raffle items, live music, dancing, socializing, and celebrating the Classic qualifiers. I will not be dancing, so I'll be socializing. And there is a Cowtown Western dress theme. So if you're in that neck of the woods, it's a great party to attend to. So classiccrawfishboil.com. You can get on there. There's the deal right there. This is all put together by the Zaldanes. Tickets and donations. It is $150 to enter, but that includes I want to make sure I said what it includes. I don't know. I think it includes everything. It obviously includes your crawfish, and I think it includes some alcohol as well too. And then they'll also have a raffle that if you can't attend, you can do the raffle. If you can't attend, you can get in the raffle too. So if you guys want to know like more information about this, Classic Crawfish Boil, Monday, March 17th, hang out with the Classic guys, chat with the Classic guys. So all right, I think that's all we got for today. Once again, big shout out to Randy or Randall Tharp. I hope today's show hit all of the 3 E's from my point: entertain, educate, and engage. There is no C in there, which would be complain. But you got to talk about what's going on in the industry as well. See, I'm still conflicted, even though I talked myself out through it. So, but great guest in Randall Tharp. Same time, same place tomorrow. Remember, if you haven't, like this podcast show. If you're listening on iTunes, leave a review and a star. That helps boost it up. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Bye. Later.